Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining tonight's Tuesday Talks webinar. My name is Susan Brown, and I'm the Associate Director of Parent and Family Programs. It is our pleasure to be hosting a webinar on tonight's topic, Happy and Healthy in the New Semester. Tonight, you'll be hearing from Owen Wyatt. He is the Director of our Behavioral Health at University Health and Counseling Services, and Kelly Ann Carfey, Assistant Director of the Office of Prevention and Education at Northeastern. So tonight we're going to be covering the following topics. We're going to talk, Wyatt's going to be talking about, Owen is going to be talking about medical and behavioral health care, some of the resources, some of the new services that we offer, how students can make an appointment and the different hours that the center is available. And then we're going to hear from Kelly Ann, who is going to talk about alcohol, drug prevention, and education. And then finally, at the end of our presentation, we'll be doing a Q&A. I do ask that you refrain from putting questions in until the end of the presentation. But when you do put your questions in, you will see on the right-hand side of your screen, you can type it into the Q&A pod, which is on the right side of the computer, and we will answer questions following the presentation. So let's begin. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We're glad to start the year off with this topic. I think a lot of our parents are wondering how their students, what different services that we can provide to them. So I thank you both, Owen and Kelly Ann.
Well, hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Again, my name's Owen Wyatt. I'm the Director of Behavioral Health at University Health and Counseling Services, otherwise known on campus as UHCS. So to begin this evening, I'd like to give you some broad information about our services, and then as we go along together, I can dive into some more detail, especially around our behavioral health services. But to begin generally, you should know that we're an integrated medical and behavioral health service here on campus. We're located at 70 Forsyth Street on the first floor in Suite 135 of the Forsyth building. On your campus maps, we're number 55. Students can call and check in at the same place for all their health care needs, and our clinicians and administrative staff work together and are committed to providing your students with the best possible care. Additionally, to help protect student privacy, when students come in for an appointment, we have a shared waiting room, and the offices in our facility are interdispersed with medical exam rooms, so this way it's not overtly obvious what type of appointment students are waiting for. Now, all undergraduate students, regardless of their health insurance plan, can be seen at UHCS, and all they need is their Husky card. And then importantly, there's no charges for visits at UHCS. Our medical services include walk-in assessment and urgent care, women's health, sports medicine, and nutrition. Our medical staff are all board certified or licensed practitioners. And the sports medicine team holds dual appointments at Boston Children's Hospital, which should be noted has been rated the top children's hospital in the country for the 5th year in a row. In terms of immunizations, all Northeastern students must comply with Massachusetts regulations regarding immunizations. The law is quite strict, and we're under firm obligation to ensure that all students meet the standards that are set. So if your student needs an immunization, that's a service we provide, and it's easy to schedule at UHCS to have that taken care of. If the medical clinician recommends that your student have lab work done, we have a laboratory drawing station on site and can take care of most routine labs. UHCS is also situated within 1.5 miles of 5 top-tier nationally ranked hospitals, and we're able to refer your student to specialist consultation or ongoing care through our team of referral coordinators. And then lastly, our UHCS nurses and physicians are able to write prescriptions which can be filled at a local pharmacy of the student's choice. For your students' behavioral health care needs, we also have a seasoned team, and our aim is to provide immediate assessment and support to students, as well as make recommendations for ongoing care, all in a safe and confidential setting, and all as a means to help support students' overall success and well-being. The Behavioral Health Service provides both urgent and non-urgent assessment and intervention to address any immediate needs. So our clinical focus is to identify current concerns and to problem solve and recommend the most appropriate course of treatment and follow-up. Our walk-in hours double as our hours of operation, and I want to emphasize that. So students are encouraged to walk in unscheduled anytime that we're open, and again, both for urgent and non-urgent concerns. It can be for any reason. Regardless of the presenting concern, students are able to present to UHCS, and they can speak directly to a patient associate at the front desk, and they can say something to the effect of, I'm looking for a walk-in appointment with someone from behavioral health. And that's all that really needs to be said to get the wheels turning on our process of pairing your student up with a behavioral health clinician. So students don't need to provide details regarding the reason they want to be seen. We take confidentiality of our students very seriously, and they simply need to voice that they'd like to speak with a clinician. So it's important to emphasize, though, that the walk-in appointments are not intended to be full therapy sessions, but rather brief assessment kind of in the 15 to 20-minute range, but longer if needed, to provide support and discuss needs and safety to determine the next steps and follow-up. We also provide medication assessments for students who have a history of being on medication or whose needs include medication. And the behavioral health team also runs a number of well-attended student support groups throughout the year, so including topics such as depression and anxiety or mindfulness for stress management. And in a couple slides, I'll talk in more detail about the groups we're offering this semester. It should also be noted that all behavioral health providers at UHCS are trained in assessment of and response to sexual assault and other forms of violence. And then lastly, for students whose treatment recommendations include ongoing therapy or medication treatment, our clinicians will coordinate with UHCS referral and insurance coordinators to help students establish treatment in the nearby local community for ongoing support. So I mentioned the behavioral health support groups a moment ago, and on this slide I'd like to provide a little more detail about our group offerings. So this spring semester, we're offering 8 separate behavioral health groups. And just to note, too, this link at the bottom of the slide is live, so feel free to access our group page on our website to review as we go along. Just briefly regarding registration for groups, students can now complete a form of interest online, and depending on the group, in some cases can sign up directly online, or otherwise they can voice their interest, and one of the group facilitators will follow up to answer students' questions over the phone and to make sure it's a good fit for their needs. This semester's group includes 2 depression and anxiety groups with staggered start dates over the course of the semester. The depression and anxiety groups are very well attended, and it's an opportunity for students struggling with depression and anxiety to find support and to create personal change and connect with others around managing their symptoms and challenges, all in a safe and confidential and non-judgmental setting. As an aside, I ran the depression and anxiety group for a number of years, and I think one of the most powerful aspects of the experience for students is understanding that they're not alone in their struggles, and the opportunity to both receive and provide support to others can be a very powerful experience and can lead to increased growth and stability and connection. We also have the HEAL group, which is a psychoeducational support group for survivors of sexual violence. Balancing the Pressures, which is a student-athlete support group where student-athletes can receive support and discuss athletic and academic and personal challenges. We have another group, It's Complicated, a relationship support group. And this is a skills-based group with a focus on the enhancement of healthy relationships. So this would be especially for students struggling with social anxiety or who have difficulty developing healthy relationships. And this group may provide valuable support in terms of improving their connection with others. We also have a yoga for mental wellness group where students can learn how to improve their mood and sleep and attention through the practice of yoga. The group consists of 20 to 30 minutes of physical yoga practice as well as meditation, and then concludes with 30 or 40 minutes of group processing and psychoeducation. Near the bottom here, we have an international student support group, and this provides an opportunity for international students to connect and discuss challenges unique to their experience of adjusting to the U.S. culture. And then lastly, we're offering a new drop-in workshop series named Conscious Coping. And this is an open drop-in workshop. It's a workshop series offered throughout the semester to make it more accessible for students over the course of the spring. And so in the group, students learn how to manage symptoms of stress through skill building and mindfulness activities and discussion. This group may also be useful for students who are waiting to begin longer-term individual therapy in the community or for those simply looking to strengthen their overall coping skills. So more broadly outside of groups, I thought it would also be helpful to spend some time this evening discussing in a little more detail about what students can expect both environmentally when they access our physical building and the reception area, as well as what to anticipate when they access our behavioral health services. First, regarding the physical space at 70 Forsyth Street, the first thing to emphasize, and it's kind of highlighted here in the pictures, is that within the past 2.5 years, we've completed the finishing touches on a remodel project to our reception area. It has a fresh new look and it provides a calming space and now affords students even more privacy when they're checking in at the front desk. This remodel was in response to a wish to provide both a professional and even more confidential healthcare setting for our students. So here on the left picture, that's a picture of our front desk. Our front desk area and our reception. So students can check in privately within one of these enclosed booths with a patient associate, and the numbered doors, they all slide open and shut for increased autonomy and privacy while students access our services and discuss their needs with a patient associate. These are also the booths where students would check in if they chose to walk in for a same-day appointment with a behavioral health clinician. The middle picture here and the one on the right show our self-check-in kiosks. So if students already have a pending appointment and want to check in on their own, that's an option that's available to them. And again, for increased privacy, you can see that there are dividers between each check-in station, and the screens are designed in such a way that they're only visible from a direct straight-on position. So they're protected from any side angle glances, again, to protect privacy. The main reception seating and waiting area, it's not visible in these pictures, but they're on the other side of the self-check-in kiosks. And again, this is a shared waiting room, so this way it's not overtly obvious what type of appointment students are waiting for. And then lastly, in terms of the physical space, you'll notice the TV monitor with the pink screen here in the middle picture, kind of off in the distance. We have 2 of those screens on either side of the waiting area, and they provide up-to-date service information. So, for example, information regarding upcoming behavioral health groups or wellness tips or health alerts and tips related to taking care of yourself during the flu season. In terms of what a student can expect when they access our behavioral health services, and as a reference, all this information is on our What to Expect behavioral health section of our UHCS website. But if a student wishes to schedule an initial visit in advance, so not a same-day walk-in visit, a patient associate will offer the opportunity to schedule a 15-minute phone call with a behavioral health clinician within a day or 2 of a student's request, and most often within a day. So your student can then expect at the scheduled time that a behavioral health clinician will contact them by phone and have a brief conversation with them. And then in this call, the student can expect to be asked for some basic information about their concerns, history, and a discussion about what is bringing them to UHCS. So the clinician will then review the student's treatment options and support them with next steps, which typically results in scheduling an in-person appointment at UHCS with a therapist for further discussion, support, and continued review of treatment options. In terms of that first appointment with a behavioral health clinician, students can typically expect a brief 30-minute assessment. The clinician who meets with the student will have the opportunity to review the notes of the recent phone assessment in advance, and so then the meeting itself in person serves as an opportunity to continue the discussion of their needs. Students can expect continued conversation regarding their history, including previous illness or hospitalizations, and any and all medications that have been prescribed in the past. The clinician will then review their understanding of the student's concerns and identify and address any immediate needs, and review a care and safety plan as well as a recommendation for treatment. So some examples of what some of those next steps of treatment might look like. We might schedule an additional follow-up visit at UHCS for further and ongoing assessment and support. We might schedule a medication assessment visit or provide a referral to a student support group like the ones I mentioned. We might review other helpful campus resources and supports, such as the Office of Prevention and Education at Northeastern, which you'll learn more about in a few moments. We might review resources and self-care tips that students can utilize to help manage their condition or the issues that they're facing. Or we may also refer students to ongoing consistent treatment in the local community. Reviewing our UHCS student care model, students can access walk-in appointments for routine and urgent medical and behavioral health assessment anytime we're open, and expect to receive support, treatment and care options, as well as recommendations and a review of immediate plan. Regarding referrals to the community, as I've mentioned, Boston is one of the top medical communities in the country, if not the world. We're very fortunate to be able to leverage these resources to connect students to appropriate care for their needs. And UHCS is able to connect these students to these resources through a personalized referral service that considers needs and preferences, including clinical issue, health insurance, and a location that's convenient for the student. So in review, following our assessment and stabilization and immediate recommendations, we leverage all the best continuing care services available for your student. Students may return to UHCS for any concerns throughout their undergraduate experience at Northeastern. And like I've emphasized, our goal is to be a resource for students' healthcare needs throughout their experience here at Northeastern. In terms of our hours, we're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 to 5. We're open late on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 to 8. We're open Saturdays, 12 to 4, and most holidays, 10 to 3. It's important to mention, too, that we coordinate closely with Northeastern Public Safety for emergency student response. So there's always available immediate medical and behavioral health response all day, every day. And if at any point you suspect your student is experiencing an emergency while on campus, we strongly advise you to contact the Northeastern University Police Department and UPD at the number here, 617-373-3333. Along these same lines of after-hours care, these are two really valuable resources you should be aware of if you're not already. The Samaritan's Crisis Hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and students can call or text anytime. There's trained volunteers that are always available to provide support and assistance, and this service is free and confidential and anonymous. Likewise, the crisis text line is available anywhere in the U.S., 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and students can text this number when they're experiencing any type of crisis, or if they need to talk to a live trained counselor for response and support. I'm going to shift gears quickly before passing it off. I'm going to conclude with a few slides regarding health insurance and immunizations. As you may know, the state of Massachusetts requires that all students participate in a health insurance plan. The plan we offer is Northeastern University Student Health Plan, or NUSHIP. We're very proud of our NUSHIP plan and the coverage it provides our students, so any chance we have to mention it, we do. It's a Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO plan and provides comprehensive coverage for your student anywhere in the world. Students are automatically enrolled and billed every year, and if students do enroll in a plan with comparable coverage, they're able to waive NUSHIP, but they must do so by the semester's deadline. The deadline for this semester was January 11th, so it has passed, so this information will be relevant for consideration in future semesters. As many of you, I'm sure, are familiar, health insurance varies from plan to plan and state to state, from one employer to another. In an effort to assure your student gets the most comprehensive coverage, we offer this NUSHIP checklist. If you're considering NUSHIP for a future semester, we suggest contacting your insurance provider to see if your plan is comparable. And this checklist, it's a helpful tool to assist you in that process and to help you ask questions. And this list can be found on the NUSHIP website. As I've mentioned, New Shifts, it's an excellent plan, and we very much encourage you to consider it. Regarding immunizations, Massachusetts law requires students to provide documentation of immunity to a number of infectious illnesses. And like I've mentioned, the law is quite strict, and the university is mandated to comply. At this point, your students have received a link to the university health report. It's a few pages long. The second page needs to be completed and signed by a physician, and that's the page that maps out the immunizations that need to be documented, which are highlighted here on this slide. These can be done through vaccine or proof that students have had the virus, which can be done through a blood test. The completed university health report was due on December 1st, but there is still time. So if you need a copy, you can visit the UHCS website and find it under health requirements and forms. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today and provide additional details about UHCS. If you have any questions, you can please contact us by phone or email or visit our website. And of course, please do follow us on Twitter. I'm imagining that this content has perhaps stimulated some questions, so I look forward to fielding some of those during our question and answer period here at the end. But for now, I'd like to hand off the presentation to Kelly Ann Carfey, LICSW, and Assistant Director at the Office of Prevention and Education at Northeastern, otherwise known as OPEN.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly. I'm here to talk to you today about the services that our office provides, specifically around alcohol and other drug education, and how you can best support your students throughout their college experience. So as a starting point, we want you to know that Northeastern's work in the realm of prevention and education has been cutting edge. We use research-based approaches and interventions that were developed after several years of federal research grants. The outreach and services we provide on this topic are all rooted in science and have had a very positive impact on our campus as it relates to curtailing high-risk substance use. Our office offers confidential, non-judgmental check-ins for students looking to get personalized feedback about their use and also see how it might compare to other Northeastern students. We provide evidence-based prevention and education to students that have been found to be the most effective in reducing student risk. We are not providing counseling, but instead are providing prevention. Although most of our students are mandated to come to our office, students can visit us to check in about their substance use or if they have concerns about a friend or peer. We routinely hear that students are surprised by how much they enjoyed their experience and how different it was from what they were expecting. Students often come in anticipating a lecture or expecting someone to tell them what to do. However, we are really pleased for students to get more information in a supportive environment. So why are we so invested in this work? We know that there are potential mental health and academic consequences for college students in relation to their substance use. It's well established in the literature that there are academic drawbacks for students using substances in risky ways. In looking at this study in particular that followed traditional age first-year college students for 8 years, we see that consequences may be directly correlated. For example, skipping classes, not studying because of hangovers, or not sleeping well because of marijuana use. We also know consequences can build up, manifesting in other ways and contributing to things like lower GPAs, not getting more competitive co-ops, and so on. Students in the study were assessed annually for 6 years and found drug use and excessive drinking set the stage for disruptions in college enrollment or stopping out. This trajectory can lead to greater likelihood of delayed graduation or failure to graduate. So we know that this cascade of consequences extends beyond college graduation in the form of poor employment outcomes and potential lower lifetime earnings. At Open, we are really trying to prevent these problems from accumulating over time by reaching students before it becomes an issue. Science is showing these are not short-term consequences, so we want our students to excel and therefore do take it seriously. When specifically looking at alcohol use, we know that alcohol can impact people very differently. As a field, we're really moving away from looking only at frequency or quantity of use alone and looking more at general impact. So we are well aware that our students experience short and long-term consequences from their drinking. Every 2 years, we send out a survey to a random representative sample of the student body called the National College Health Assessment. The assessment is voluntary and anonymous and asks questions on all health and wellness topics. The statistics you are looking at are from the survey and show the range in consequences that students endorse as a result of their drinking. These show us that alcohol can also be involved in how sexual assault on college campuses is playing out. What's concerning for us as well is alcohol's impact on student mental health, especially as it relates to increasing the likelihood of suicidal thoughts and behaviors. So our work at Open goes beyond just reducing college drinking, but also works to decrease consequences that can often be correlated with substance use, like student safety, mental health, and violence. Some of you may remember this information from orientation, but I want to share with you again tonight that parental factors have increasingly been shown to be directly and indirectly associated with alcohol use and consequences during the college years. One of the biggest predictors of heavy drinking is the influence of peer norms or the drinking behavior of your students' friends. We've known for a long time that parents have a big impact on adolescents' drinking and drug use in terms of how engaged they are, how they monitor their teen, but research around parents' role for college drinking is relatively new. What we know from the research is that parents who stay in regular communication with their student, or parents who tend to be less permissive, are okay with heavy drinking, and parents who regularly ask about drinking and set expectations tend to have students who are less likely to binge drink. Further, studies show that students who maintain effective communication throughout their college years with their parents on this topic have reduced risk. So assuming that the conversation ends at a certain age or that your students don't need this talk anymore is not supported by the research. We are finding that your influence extends throughout college and throughout their college time. If you are interested in learning more about this and getting more concrete ideas about how to initiate conversations on this topic, we have an incredible resource on our website called A Parent Handbook for Talking with College Students About Alcohol. This free handbook is available at the link and it's on our Open's website homepage. We have a ton of research and science regarding alcohol in college students and what is effective in terms of prevention and best practice. We have far less evidence-based information on marijuana, but I wanted to share some of the research that we do have, keeping in mind that THC levels are higher than they have ever been and are continuing to rise. There are very few, if any, published studies about the impact of marijuana at these higher THC levels, so we don't know fully what this impact is having. We do know that even at lower levels of THC, there are measurable changes in cognitive abilities, complicated interactions for students struggling with mental health, and academic impacts. Marijuana is a sedative hypnotic, so it slows the body down. After marijuana use, neurons in the hippocampus fire slower and lower. The hippocampus is part of the brain associated with attention, concentration, and memory. Alexander's Pope research on this shows measurable deficits in all three of these areas a full 24 hours after use, meaning that if students using and having classes or an exam the following day, they will still most likely not be up to their full academic potential. The good news is, research suggests that among those who use marijuana daily and end up quitting, all of the deficits in attention, concentration, and memory seem to go back to normal. Heavier users do seem to see greater deficits in these areas. However, the newest research is showing that even for those who dabble, deficits still exist. Looking at this a little more closely, we see that deficits in verbal learning were found at first, but returned back to normal at 2 weeks of abstaining from marijuana. Verbal working memory took 3 weeks for deficits to subside, and attention deficits took the longest to return back to normal. They were still present at 3 weeks. At this point, there is no drug more associated with attention deficits than marijuana. It's actually getting harder to diagnose ADHD because heavy marijuana use is closely associated with ADHD symptoms. Thanks to studies that have come out the past couple of years, we now have published literature that makes clear that marijuana use is associated with lower GPA, taking longer to graduate, and even lower likelihood of still being enrolled. So for those who are playing a part, any part in helping to pay for tuition and fees and want college to be affordable, not having gaps in enrollment or taking longer to graduate can also contain cost. As stated earlier, we are no longer thinking about substance use issues solely in terms of frequency and quantity of use, but thinking in terms of risks associated with the individual. Students who have a family history of mental health or who are struggling with mental health should be cognizant of effects that their marijuana use may be having. Research shows that those who had used cannabis 10 or more times by the age of 18 were 2.3 times more likely to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. Another group that requires more of our attention are those with depression who are also using marijuana daily or near daily, as this can worsen symptoms of depression long term. There's also research that suggests those who are dependent on cannabis have depression and have any suicidal ideation or are more likely to self-harm than their peers. Lastly, marijuana is an addictive substance and people do experience withdrawal effects. Most commonly endorsed are insomnia, anxiety, and having trouble eating. It's important to note that these can be withdrawal effects and that they should subside within a week of abstinence. So if your students are concerned about this, it is something that should go away for them after a week of not using. Since states like Washington are further along into legalization than we are, they tend to have more information available to the public and certainly parents. I am sharing a science-based website for parents if this is an area where you'd like more information. here's our contact information. I know that I gave a lot of information, so if you have any other questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact myself or the open office. Students can also stop by or reach out to us if they want to check in or have any questions. Thanks so much for listening to me, and I'm going to turn it over to Susan.
Well, thank you, Owen and Kelly. And that was very informative to learn about the different things that your area is too. So we're going to begin taking questions, as I said, so if you can begin typing your questions in the right-hand side of the computer screen, we will try to get to as many questions as we can. If for some reason we do not get to your question or it's a personal matter, you can email us at parents@neu.edu, and I will make sure the appropriate person gets the email. So let's begin to take someone. First, let's start with an insurance question. Someone's asking, Owen. They're asking, if you waive the fee in September, do you have to waive it again in January, or is it just once a year?
I believe it's once a year. That information would be on our new SHIP website, but I can also double check on that and follow up to confirm, but I'm fairly positive it's once a year.
So in regards to insurance, again, if a student waives the insurance, can they still be seen at the health center? Are they still allowed to take services, counseling, that type of thing?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Regardless of health insurance, so whether it's the new SHIP insurance or whether it's a comparable coverage, all students can be seen at UHCS. There's no issue there. You're not required to have the new SHIP insurance in order to receive services.
Okay. We have a couple questions. Parents, there's a few parents that are kind of asking a similar question, and it's in regard to if you walk into the health center, how long a wait can you anticipate? Yep. Will they really be seen that day, especially if it's a mental health issue? We have a parent saying that they were told to come back the next day. So maybe you could address that and how that process works for the students.
Yeah, absolutely. To emphasize again, students are encouraged to walk in any time that we're open. So any time that we're open throughout the week, and they would simply need to go to the front desk and speak with a patient associate and request to speak with a behavioral health clinician. And we have services or operations in place where we always have an available clinician to meet with a student. So in terms of wait time, it varies for behavioral health, but I would say on average the wait is between 5 and 20 minutes to meet with a clinician. So once you've checked in with a patient associate at the front desk, you would then go and have a seat in the reception area, and then the behavioral health clinician who's been assigned to meet with your student would come out to the reception area, call their name, and then bring them to a confidential office to review their needs.
If they thought a student needed more long-term therapy, do they offer recommendations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the service that we provide students. So part of that assessment process not only is getting a sense of what the immediate concerns are, what the stressors are, what the past mental health history is, but also reviewing all available treatment options. And so if there's a student who would benefit from more regular, consistent care in the community, we have a team of referral coordinators who can match your student's health insurance to providers in the local area, and then provide them a list of, I would say, between 4 and 6 different clinicians who accept the student's insurance. And then we can provide follow-up and interim support as they navigate that process. And then I know the referral coordinator will also follow up with the student to make sure that checking in on the process and to make sure they're receiving the support.
But just to be clear, let's say a student did go for outside therapy.
Yeah.
Would someone from the area reach out to them, midway through the process just to see how they're doing, or would they kind of be on their own for that?
It's variable. So some students walk in and they know they've participated in long-term consistent treatment in the past, and they know they want to set that up again, and we will get the wheels turning on that process. We'll offer follow-up support, and many times students will take us up on that, but not always. And then once they receive the referral information, unless they request or need additional support, they'll navigate that, and they can follow up with us by scheduling follow-up appointments. They can walk in at any time. I want to emphasize there's no limit to the amount of time a student can walk in. And then, like I mentioned, the referral coordinator will also provide support and follow up to see how that process is going, to see if a referral has been established, to offer additional referrals if necessary.
You spoke about the support groups, which they looked like they had several really interesting topics that students can take part in. They don't need to be evaluated to join a support group. They can just go online and register, I assume?
It's variable and it depends on the group. So, for example, I mentioned the Conscious Coping group. That's an open drop-in group, and there's no sort of pre-screening involved, and students can just walk in at the time the group is being held. Again, that information is on our group's website. There are other groups that do require to fill out an interest form, and then the group facilitator will follow up by phone, in some cases in person. So, for example, with the HEAL group, support group for survivors of sexual assault and violence, that group would require face-to-face meetings beforehand, just to make sure that it's an appropriate fit for their needs.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about when you're closed, what the nearest hospital students should go to, or if they need urgent care?
Yeah. Well, Beth Israel is, I would say, the closest hospital to Northeastern. I mean, that, again, we're fortunate to be situated in Boston and just have such a wealth of world-renowned, world-class hospitals a stone's throw from our center. But Beth Israel is just right down Huntington Avenue, and I would say I would estimate it's probably less than a 10-minute Uber ride. By public transportation, it's probably 10-15 minutes or so.
Okay. Kelly, I'm going to turn some questions over to you now. We have a parent asking, where can I find the website with the pamphlet talking to your college student about alcohol is shown?
It's the one that, you can go to the link that's up right now on the screen. I think that's a live link, right?
I think it is. So
if you click on northeastern.edu/open, the parent handbook is on the home page under announcements.
I do see some questions coming up. I actually work in the parent's office in the orientation office where many of your students, maybe first-year students who just came in with our January class. And I do want to say, some parents are asking, did students hear this in January? Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact they did. Yeah. So they did hear
a little different information.
Yeah, it is presented in a little bit different form, but they do hear about, open. They do hear about University Health and Counseling Center and, the process to go in there. So. And I do see several questions of parents saying that, their student went there and was not taken right away. And is there someone that they could address those concerns with, or should I have them email me? I mean there's a couple people asking some personal questions, and I don't want to, say that. So is there someone that they could reach out to, Owen?
If they have concerns specifically about
about their student, someone's asking about, can a parent initiate if they think their student's not doing well or is depressed, or should a parent initiate that type of thing. So.
Well, no, that's a great question. I really appreciate your asking it. I mean, as a contact person, you can always feel free to call and we welcome calls of concern at the counseling center. You can call and request to speak with me. You can also call and request to speak with a clinician. If you ever have any concerns, we encourage you to call. I mean, that our services are confidential, but we can still take information and get a sense of the concern, and then based on that make some clinical decisions in terms of next steps. But we often, and I should say regularly, receive information of concern from a wide variety of sources. So parents, staff, friends, anonymous friends, partners, voicing concern about Northeastern students and people that they care about, and that's really sort of vital to our service, because it allows us most of the time to reach out to the student and let them know that there's been some concern expressed, and review our services and remind them that they can walk in at any time, or schedule a more immediate appointment to meet with a clinician. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, there's quite a few parents kind of doing a similar thing and talking about some of the issues that their students have, whether they were hurt physically or had an emotional concern. I also want to add that our office, the Parent and Family Programs Office, is here to accommodate any issues you have. We have referrals that we can help you with, or we could refer you and speak with the University Health and Counseling Center if your student is having any issues or feels like they can't get an appointment. I know some of my experiences, a lot of times students are sick in the winter and they don't want to go over there and wait. And I get a lot of calls from that, but unfortunately when you do, you have to sometimes wait an hour to be seen. So let me see, I will open it up to see if we have a few more questions. We had a parent say that they were amazed at the services that Beth Israel offers. So that's good to know. Like Owen had said, we're in Boston and we have some of the finest hospitals in the area, and actually Northeastern is located almost near every single one of them. So that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, I would agree. Beth Israel has excellent services, especially related to behavioral health, obviously medical as well, but there's a strong support system at Beth Israel.
You spoke about the immunization for students need. Is that just once a year? I believe it is, right? They don't need to do that every year.
Once a year. I mean, we also have a system in place that if students have not completed immunizations, we'll follow up with friendly reminders to encourage them to come in and have that taken care of. And we often put on immunization clinics where we can take a high volume of students and take care of their immunization needs.
Great. So it looks like we've gotten to almost all the questions. Like I said, there are a few out there that I see kind of personal, and I really do encourage you to email me, Susan Brown, at parents.northeastern.edu, and I will be sure to forward your message on to Owen or Kellyanne tomorrow. I do want to thank everyone for attending tonight. We do have our contact information up here if you need anything for the parents' office. And shortly in a moment, we are going to be asking you to complete a survey. I hope you will take a few minutes to complete that. It really does provide us with feedback for our presenters, and also it assists us in some of the future topics that you would like to hear on our Tuesday Talk seminar. So I will be sending this survey out shortly when we close. I do want to remind you that our next webinar will be on February 5th from 7 to 8 p.m. It will be Careers by Design, Meaningful Work That Makes an Impact. So you'll be hearing a lot about the different co-op procedures in our Career Development Office and that type of thing. And before I also send the survey, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. Thank you, Kellyanne and Owen. I do appreciate it. And like I said, if you do have a question, I will make sure that it does go into their hands. So again, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, again, our parents' email address is parents@northeastern.edu, and we look forward to seeing you on February 5th.